Hi, welcome to the Reality of Business. I'm your host, Adrienne Booth Johnson. I'm CEO of Infinity Global Connections, an executive coach, author, and a philanthropist. I am so excited to be here with you. As a serial entrepreneur, I have always believed in having several streams of income. I've owned several businesses, including a public relations firm, an upscale women's clothing boutique, a marketing company, and a nonprofit organization that creates women entrepreneurs in Ghana, West Africa. Entrepreneurship has been and continues to be an enriching and valuable journey because it truly is a journey. It's very important to build the right team, a supportive network, and provide unique and cost-effective solutions when challenges arrive. That's why shows like this one is so important. We have the opportunity to learn from industry experts and successful entrepreneurs as we dive into the reality of business.
One of the biggest lessons that business owners have got to learn is they've got to start focusing on the business instead of working in the business. The natural thing is to say, well, if we got to grow, I've got to work harder. So now I'm on the hamster wheel and I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week and I don't have date nights.
The common mistake I see beginners make is they think they know what they want to do until it's time to do it.
I think that it's necessary for a manager in any field, whether it's their own business or whether they're working for a company, they must delegate. They must delegate.
To run a successful business, there are key things that must be done. Many are intuitive, and like many things in life, many must be learned. Market research, which in simple terms is using research tools to reveal information about a market, product, competitors, pricing, or suppliers. Create a business plan. This is the Bible of your business. It's a written document containing methods, goals, and plans, and when they will be implemented and achieved. You can't just create it and put it on the shelf to look at next year. It's a living, breathing document that morphs based on relative information that's ever changing. Lastly, funding your business. No matter the size or stage of your business, you will need funds. But before we move forward, let's discuss passion and motive. If you're going to do anything in life that's worth doing, you need a motive, the reason why you're doing it, and passion to energize you to the finish line. That is the first step in sustaining a successful business, connecting with those two power twins. But what you will find is that that is not enough either. Your passion and motive, though necessary, can't carry you the distance when running a business. The fundamentals, the basics, the discipline, day in and day out, drive success too. Today you'll hear from people in the trenches. Tony Brevard, owner of 7A Funding Group. Amy Elfersey, owner of Ami Jewelry and Fine Art Gallery. Darryl Green, Business Acquisitions Manager, Wells Fargo Bank. Bernard Holman, owner of Inspiring Musician Production, Inc. Jeff Lovejoy, owner of Action Coach Atlanta. Mackenzie Wren, owner of Mackenzie Wren Consulting. I also have the opportunity to sit down with Janet Waller, president of Perimeter Entertainment. Walter Booth, vice president of Folger, Nolan, Fleming, Douglas. Let's go on a journey from the concept of business to the reality of business.
What's motivating you? Because, most people don't really have a good why when they start a business. I'm a good electrician, I'll start electrical, but why? And the more that they can get clarity around the why they're in the business, the differences are dramatic. So that understanding the why and establishing the why is critical to the growth of any business, and has huge branding implications.
Why does this exist kind of questions. Like if you can ever sit at your desk and you're doing a process, like we're doing this conversation right now, and you're at your desk, and something in you goes, why are we doing it this way? Why can't we just do whatever? That whatever is a company. Because if you think about it, and to make it better for somebody, you should be able to do it.
Well, this was a dream of mine, a fantasy, we could say. For about 30 years, I had this in my mind that I would love to do this one day. And my husband and I even had a little joke between us, a little conversation where I said, you know what, Jacques, maybe when we retire, we can open up a business together. And he said, what type of business? I said, well, how about a gallery? He said, well, what do you have in it? And I said, well, some paintings, some jewelry maybe. And he said, well, do you know anything about that? And I said, well, I know something, yeah. And then we both laughed. And that was the end of the fantasy conversation.
It formulates with what a person has passion to do, which is something that no license, no other person can actually take and make a part of something. So every business that started non-traditionally, and I'm sure most of the businesses started non-traditionally. Cameramen started playing with cameras around the house, taking pictures on their own, didn't have, any paperwork to do it, but you did it. You did it while you were homing in on your skills before you got to the next level.
When I was about to open the business, I talked to my son. Now, he's about 38 now, so 7 years ago, he was 31. Anyway, he's a doctor, and so he's a smart fellow and everything. And I told him I was about to do this, and he got very serious and got very nervous and thought it wasn't a particularly good idea. There's too much risk involved. And he thought maybe I would just give up, early on, and I wouldn't continue it, and it'd be a lot of waste of money. So he said, Mom, at your age, people are pulling back. You're jumping in on full force into something major. So I said to him, well, Adrienne, just call me a late bloomer. Yeah, I was, 7 years ago. Now I'm 70, so I was 63 when I opened. People that want to do it, but they're fearful for a variety of reasons, their age, money, opportunity, I don't know what other obstacles there are in people's path. Time, that's another big one. If you are 65 or even 70 and you really want to open a particular type of business, if you really want it, then that means you are going to make it happen, and you're not going to give up until it starts going well. I would encourage you to do it. If, on the other hand, you're lukewarm about it and say, well, I'm going to try it. Yeah, I'll try it for 6 months. If it doesn't work well, I can just pull out. I would tell that person, no, don't try.
While you may have great skills and passion and may be clear about what motivates you, that's still not nearly enough to succeed in business. You need to understand or find someone who can help you understand the business of running a business.
As the owner, you are ultimately responsible. Every single thing that happens to the business is your responsibility, whether you did it or not. If someone else made a mistake, you didn't train them. You didn't communicate effectively with them. That's another lesson a lot of business owners don't realize, Ownership is own your ship, right? If you own your ship, you're responsible for everything. Doesn't mean that you did it, but it's all yours. And so you've got to train people, you've got to communicate with people, you've got to do a lot of things that a lot of times business owners don't, because they're so busy they're on that hamster wheel, and I don't have time to talk to my team. I'm not going to train them. We don't have the best technology, and then they wonder why things don't materialize.
Passion without business acumen is probably the biggest downfall for most small business owners. Your passion and your skill is your passion and your skill. It's not the bank's, it's not your partner's, it's not anybody's, it's yours. And oftentimes, when we don't have a plan and we just have a passion and skill, we're blinded to the realities of starting a business. Starting a business is one of the most challenging things that you can do. You are responsible for every single aspect of that business. And it is imperative that you understand what your lease says, that you understand what your financials say, that you understand what your product does and what it doesn't do, that you understand the people who you've hired, that you understand the market you're in. Small businesses sometimes will rely on others for advice, but those others cannot run the business for you.
The common mistake I see beginners make is they think they know what they want to do until it's time to do it. They've heard their friends tell them that they have this certain business, whether it's a daycare center or whatever, and they think that they can just do it because they're buying an existing business. And nothing can be further from the truth. The reality of it is you have to have some core competency in what it is you're trying to accomplish. And so I think that the main mistake I see people make is they might be really good at math, but then they want to do something that has nothing to do with math. Or they might be good at taking care of kids, or they may be terrible at taking care of kids, and they want to own a daycare center. Not only are they terrible at taking care of the kids, but they've never done any bookkeeping or any kind of business management.
Most young businesses, the owners think that all they need to do is they've got the best product available. They've got the best app. They had the highest grades in dental school, whatever it is. And they think that alone is going to drive success in their business. And it's a challenge for them when they get out in the hard world and they get knocked around a bit to realize they need to know how to market the business. They need to know how to hire people. They need to know how to lead people. They need to know their financials. None of this stuff they've had any experience with. And so the first couple years are really challenging for business owners. And a lot of it is because they have to increase their education, their knowledge around what being a business owner is all about. Because being a business owner is not easy. It's challenging. There's a lot of hard work that's got to go in it. There's a lot of learning that you have to do. But once you've learned it, then it becomes less of a challenge and it can become much more enjoyable. But those first years can be very challenging. And so a lot of what I do with them is to help them think long term and help them think about what it's going to take to get there and what skills are they going to have to learn and what strategies are we going to have to roll out, because they typically think it's a whole lot easier than it's going to be because they haven't been knocked around, and they've got to get knocked around a little bit to really get their feet on the ground, so to speak.
The number one thing I believe you should do as an entrepreneur is to ensure someone has the responsibility for doing the work that generates revenue for your company.
That's crucial.
Absolutely. You can go to networking events that may not generate revenue that day, but while you're there, you will have the opportunity to meet people that can generate revenue for you at some time in the future. And if you have employees, they should be doing the work while you're at a networking event that generates that revenue.
So after your business is a hobby and you want to take it to the next level, some of the things that you need is you do need to start off, get your business plan, a real business plan, get you some business insurance, get you some your right licenses for whatever business that you're doing. And of course, make sure you're up on the know-how of what you're going to do. Make sure you're trained up on what you're trying to do, what your business is. You have to make sure you know what you're talking about when you talk about your own business, or you really just know nothing.
What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? And what are my threats? any business should always be looking at a SWOT analysis.
The SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's an effort to get the owner to start thinking strategically. A, what are they strong at internally, and what are they weak at? And then externally, what are the opportunities and the threats to them? You know, what makes your business different than all your competitors? Most of them don't know. They've never looked at the competitors' websites. Well, so now you're going to look like every single competitor that's out there, which means the only way people are going to buy from you is because you're the low price.
This is so critical. Why? Let's just say you developed a passion for baking. You learned with your mom and your grandma, and you've gotten very good at it. You started baking pies and cakes out of your home. Then you started selling them individually to individuals. Then you started making them for parties and events. So now you want to get into the business. I would always recommend that you go into, do your research and YouTube, Google anything about that industry to see if you can find out information about it. How much does it cost for an oven? Do I buy new? Do I buy used? Do I go into a shared lease space where there are other vendors selling things that aren't competitive? Do I deliver? How's my cookie different? How's my cupcake different? Am I using green products? Am I using fat-free? Am I doing vegan? Am I doing gluten-free, right? And who else is doing it? And what does theirs taste like? Who am I going to market to? Am I going to market to college students because I'm in a college town? Am I going to market to corporate because I would prefer to just sell the cupcakes to a corporate group? Do I want people walking in? What are all of the things that are associated with that? And doing that research is going to help you make that decision.
Business plans are great if they're followed, but a lot of times business owners will spend the time to build a plan, and then it gets put in the bottom drawer and never gets looked at again. You know, the plan is integral to what is it we want to get. I always take my clients through an exercise that looks at what are your goals for the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 3 years? What do we need to do now to get you started towards where you want to be? And then each meeting, we're going to come back and we're going to start looking at the things that they need to get done to get to where they want to be by the end of the year. And by getting to the end of the year, that starts them on that 3-year trail and the 5-year path. That's how I do it. I help them think through step by step. You know, you don't eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's a lot of little bites. And it's the little bites that I hold them accountable for. And those little bites are based on where they want to go 5-10 years down the road.
I was that weekend entrepreneur that didn't have a business license at the time, didn't have, I was that mom and pop shop that everybody knew they would get good quality, and I was that go-to person, you know. Let's call Bernard, let's get him down here, you know, that type of thing. So I didn't have all my ducks in a row, but it took me about 2 years to make sure that I was going in the right path. After that second year, bigger people started calling and wanted the expertise that I was able to provide, and I had to get my ducks in a row. Otherwise, I would be losing out on money and gigs, bigger gigs. There have been some things that have forced us to make changes in business real quick. And when these changes happen, we have to either let people go, or we have to revamp how we do business altogether sometimes. And that's why it's important for businesses to have a plan in the beginning. And this plan formulates to how your business completely runs from A to Z. And you, your employees, have to make sure you understand this plan and it is followed. It's not stayed away from, but it is followed from A to Z.
Even when you're starting your business, right? When you're going to lease your space, or you're going to purchase the laptop, or you're going to purchase whatever you need to get things going, you have to put cash out on the front end. Where is that cash going to come from? A lot of times business owners will have savings. Sometimes they'll go to friends and family. Friends and family will often pitch in, maybe for a percentage of ownership, maybe for a friends and family loan. But that's where entrepreneurship starts. So when you're thinking about launching a business, you really need to be thinking about current market conditions and what am I offering? And likely getting bank financing for a startup is going to be a challenge. There are alternative sources out there, friends and family, micro lenders. But if you can start a business that requires very little upfront capital, the probability of jumping off to success is higher. When I say that, meaning you start a business on the internet versus trying to open up a brick and mortar location. If you wanted to go into baked pies or cookies, I would start it on the internet versus trying to lease a space, hire a bunch of people, get in the cookie business, only to find out the market is not right for that. The location may not be right for that.
In order to grow your business, you have to make some tough decisions. One of the toughest, figuring out how to finance your dream. There are two main choices: taking on debt or offering stake in your company for equity. There are pros and cons to both. If you finance your business with a loan, you have to pay the money back, but you don't relinquish any ownership. On the other hand, you can fund it yourself or invite others to invest in your company. That means you may not have to pay others back, but they own part of your business. And there's even a third choice: bootstraps and use of cash flow strategies that allow the business to fund itself.
Small businesses are in positions where they can't get approved for traditional bank financing. In those scenarios, I would strongly recommend that they reach out to the equity markets. Now, that sounds like a big term, but the equity market could be your uncle who has $20,000 of money that he can loan to you for a short period of time. You can't get financing from the bank, and you're aware of that. You know why. You know your reasons why, right? And so you go to the uncle and you say, hey, what do you think about investing in this business with me? So for $20,000, I'm willing to depart with 20% of the business, or 5% of the business, or 50% of the business. And now that person is an investor. So you could set up terms where we are invested in this business together now, and we split profits. So you don't have to pay back that $20,000. It's an investment in your business. The other side of the equation would be debt. So you would take another $20,000 loan from someone, and then you would use that loan to either purchase equipment, expand, buy another business, sell to another country, anything that you want to do with that money. But that money now is repayable over a certain period of time and at a certain interest rate. Now, there's a hybrid, which your uncle may not want to invest in you, but will loan you the money at a higher interest rate than maybe what the bank will pay. Because again, your uncle's not a bank. And so what you want to do is say to them, hey, for taking this risk on me, I'm willing to pay you 10%, versus if I were to get a bank loan, it might be at 6%. But I can't qualify for that bank loan yet because my business is either new or I'm starting up.
There is another strategy for small business owners who are looking for funding to start or grow your business. The Small Business Administration, also known as the SBA, According to its website, sba.gov, the SBA provides counseling, capital, and contracting expertise. One of the ways it helps small business owners pursue the American dream is through funding.
Some things that people would want to look at to know that they need the SBA. The first thing would be the amount of capital that they have to infuse into a project. SBA is by far your best route to put the least amount of money into a project to acquire something. If you look at a business acquisition, for example, the requirement is typically 10% equity injection, unless you're buying something maybe a little higher, but normally 10% range. And what we do is with our company is we try to turn around and even give them a better route than that, where we say 10% is the requirement, but we've talked to our banks so the banks understand they may bring 5%. And then we have to sell the whole 5% as a note to help them. So the first thing I would say in that example is the ease of capital gets you in the door. The second thing that goes with that is if there's no real collateral involved, collateral, not just equipment like in this room, but things like the actual building itself, any kind of accounts receivable or those types of things. A lot of the businesses that people buy don't have real collateral. And if you're not going to have collateral, a traditional banking loan or traditional commercial loan doesn't work for you, because commercial loans, they have to have collateral. And if they go, you're buying, I don't know, Slotsky's Deli. Well, you're buying the name and you're buying the concept and the marketing, but you're leasing the space. And you got $400,000 of equipment in the space. And if it goes belly up, it really ain't worth $400,000, because it's gonna go to the restaurant equipment store and sell for pennies on the dollar. So a bank has to understand that they're buying into your cash flow. SBA allows that to happen. If I went to a traditional commercial banker and said I want to do that, do a deal like I just described, they would say, so what else you have for me? You got your house? You got some more land? You got some whatever? If you don't have enough other stuff, you can't do it traditionally. So SBA, again, aside from the low down payment, the collateral piece is very critical to SBA. So when someone wants to plan for a loan, whether it's now or a year from now, there's a few things that we do before we even start the process. The first thing we do is obviously take the phone call, because someone would have said, call us, and we're kind of popular now, so people call us a lot. But so people call us with some random question. And the first thing we want to ask them is, have you thought about what you're doing? Number one. Number two is, what's your timeline? Number three is, having said all that, do you have any sort of business plan already in place? And normally they say no. They say, here's what we're doing. Oh yeah, I'll get that for you. Well, there's ways to do that will make them go faster, because we can't have a good conversation with you if you don't really know what you're doing. Like, you just think you know, but you don't know. And so there are places called SBDCs, Small Business Development Centers, and they're all over the United States, and they're typically on college campuses. So here they're with Georgia, University of Georgia, Georgia State, etc. And they're free. Literally, they're free. And so we tell people, you think you have something put together, but before you really come to us for a deeper conversation, let's send you over to the SBDC, let them help you shape your plan, help you shape your numbers, and then let's come back and talk. Because a bank is not going to spend time with you if you're not really ready. So sometimes people think they want to do something right now, and they really are a year from now, because they're just not ready right now. And vice versa. Some people think they want to push it out, and they're so prepared, like, what are you waiting on? Let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing, though, when people come to us, is figure out, how prepared are you? And that's a judgment call on our side.
So you're probably wondering, if I can't qualify for a bank loan, what qualifies me for an SBA loan? You might be surprised.
Liquidity, credit score, experience, those types of things are very important when you come to a bank. The key there is first your credit score. SBA, again, is the better course too, because SBA in our model only requires 640. And I say in our model because that's the base for SBA, and we've gotten our banks to buy into the base. But you may talk to some other SBA bankers at a larger bank, and they may say their minimum is 680 or 700. 640 is the base required by the government, and every bank can make their own rules with that. So we try to find the banks that give us the best options on that part. So that being said, credit score first. Experience second. I put experience before liquidity because I want to understand what you even think you want to do first and what your transferable skills are for that. Oftentimes in things we do, we have people that are coming into their second or third career or fourth career, and so, in the insurance world, I can't tell you how many teachers and principals we've got that came over and are very good at it. But they know how to talk to people, and they know how to run a shop. Principals know how to run a team, transferable skills. They're not going to necessarily come in with a bunch of money. And so we try to make sure the model works for what they're trying to do and be realistic with them.
Passion and motivation, market research, having a business plan, funding your business. There's still a lot more to know about the reality of business. When we return, we will take the conversation deeper as we discuss something you may not believe. More focus and less work can actually help grow your business. How to adapt and position yourself and your business for hard times. How you can let go of the day-to-day of running your business and hire people you trust. And lastly, what's next? Do you have an exit strategy? The reality of business will be right back. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Adrienne Booth Johnson, and you are watching The Reality of Business. So your business is off and running. You've been in business long enough to start making a profit. You have that living, breathing document called a business plan. You've been approved for your small business loan, and you have enough cash flow for your month-to-month expenses. What's next? As a business owner, you never stop learning and growing. One of your primary jobs is to be ahead of the power curve at all times. Our industry experts and business owners are going to tell you how to navigate through the growth stage of your business by way of focusing, pivoting through hard times, hiring the right people, and creating an exit plan.
One of the biggest lessons that business owners have got to learn is they've got to start focusing on the business instead of working in the business. The natural thing is to say, well, if we got to grow, I've got to work harder. So now I'm on the hamster wheel, and I'm working 60, 78 hours a week, and I don't have date nights. I miss my daughter's ballet. I can't go to my son's baseball games, my daughter's softball games. And it's not until they stop to slow that hamster wheel down by thinking more strategically.
Focus, the center of activity, attraction, or attention, the point of concentration. Think about binoculars. They are great for viewing distances far away, but if the two small telescopes are not focused, the vision will be blurred. The power of focus is clarity of sight. Some believe it goes beyond that. Focus is not only for seeing clearly, but it also serves as a magnet to attract what you want.
So I absolutely believe in a spiritual component to this work, and I absolutely believe in the law of attraction. When I think about the fact that there's some 7 billion humans on the world, and that I don't need to attract 7 billion human beings, I only need a small amount that want to work with me, right? So believing, first of all, that the right people will come to me by virtue of what I am putting out in the world, right? So that I have a tone, I have a style, I have a brand, and my intention is that the people who are the right people people for me will respond to me and that they will be my ideal client. So in the early days of being an entrepreneur, knowing who your ideal client is and setting your intention to draw them in like a magnet, right? Like whoosh, you're just calling them straight in because of the clarity of your vision of them. And that's practical, but it's also spiritual because you have to believe it. You have to believe it and not go chasing the next shiny object because you feel like what you're doing isn't quite right. Like that's also part of the entrepreneur journey is you got to have chutzpah, right? So chutzpah means you just have to deeply believe that the work that you are doing is important in the world. And I do believe that the universe gives you feedback about that too.
One of the things that surprises a lot of business owners is that when we get them focused strategically on things that they want to achieve and steps that they need to take, the things will start appearing to them almost like the law of attraction that they hadn't seen before. Because there's that saying that says what you think about happens, appears. Well, if I'm not thinking strategically, if I'm not thinking about what I need to be doing to grow my business, if I'm focused on what it takes to run my business, that's all I'm going to see. As soon as I start thinking more strategically and thinking about how am I going to grow it, I'll see opportunities that I never would have seen before. And it strikes me how often that happens with the business owners I work with. They could be looking for clients, and all of a sudden we get them focused on who is an ideal client or what's the ideal target market or any of these type of things, and all of a sudden opportunities will start coming at the owner that they just because of that concept of the law of attraction. It's almost like they're putting a message out to the universe that's saying, hey, I'm looking for clients, or I need to get better profitability, I need to find my ideal employee, whatever it is, and things will start happening to make sure that happens.
Focus is not the only thing you will need to grow your business. Your staff will play an important part in your business's growth. This can be challenging as it means having to trust others to care for the baby you birthed. But it must be done.
I think that it's necessary for a manager in any field, whether it's their own business or whether they're working for a company, they must delegate. They must delegate. And a lot of managers do not like to delegate or don't want to, or it just doesn't happen because they're fearful. If they delegate, maybe it won't be done right. They have to do it all themselves in order that they are assured that it be done right. But that's really not a good way of managing, or of operating, because you get overwhelmed totally, very fast.
So the other reality for entrepreneurs is that founder syndrome is real. Founders and entrepreneurs have birthed and grown something that they feel passionate about, and it can be very hard for them to let go and to make space. And entrepreneurs, I know I had to figure out that I didn't have to know everything. In fact, it was really important for me to surround myself with smart people, and maybe even people smarter than myself, right? So that I could figure out what I could do best. And a lot of times small business owners, we don't have the time for that. We don't have the money for that, right? But that idea of let me actually step aside a little bit in order to take advantage of additional creativity is huge. And organizations that have done that tend to thrive because there's less control, there's less restriction. I don't want to say control, but there's less constriction, and so there's more freedom to grow.
Our definition of a successful business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without the owner. Meaning the owner has got the right people on board, they have the right processes in place, everything can run without the owner. If the owner's actively involved, we say they have a job, they don't have a business.
When we use the word pivot, we are speaking of an essential change of direction that could be gradual and small, or a huge shift in the makeup of the company. This is not a probability, this will happen. During my conversation with Walter Booth, he explained why a company should prepare financially, knowing that if you are in business, you will experience challenging times.
If you're trying to be in business for a long term, you have to make sure you have the finances available to withstand something. For example, in Washington, D.C., we had the government furlough, and people that had major contracts, for that, I think that furlough went on for about 2 months.
Yes.
They didn't get paid for 2 months. And so if you have to make payroll during a period like that, it's very important that you have some kind of outside source. So that's why we say it's very important that you plan for the long term and not the short term. And when you look at expanding your business, look at expanding your business when you can afford to do it.
Pivots can occur because of market changes, budget overhauls, natural disasters, or a shift of intentions. Any or all of these factors can be the reason why you are forced to revisit your business plans, your staff, and trusted advisors to make a change. Let's go back to my conversation with Janet Waller. She speaks about her experience when the inevitable pivot happened to her business.
The 2008-2009 recession, we lost 50% of our top line revenue. So when you lose revenue, the very first thing that happens is your cash flow changes.
That's correct.
Yes. So we had a lot more going out than we had coming in. And that took a big toll on our organization. We had to reevaluate how to best service our clients, how to best manage our employees, and figure out really how to make certain that we stayed in operations. If you are not being prudent in how you operate your business, it's like managing your own checkbook. A business is just a different type of checkbooks. If you live above your means, you don't sleep too good at night. Even at your means, you don't sleep too good. But if you live below your means and hence operate your business below your means, you're sleeping like a little fat baby. And that's a lot better, no matter what happens.
Right.
So that's why operating prudently and being prudent in how you manage most aspects of your life can help you tremendously, especially as a business owner. You just never know what's going to happen, Adrienne. Never.
As businesses enter into a new normal, we should focus on making sure that we pick industries that, at least from what we think we know, are able to survive whatever the economy throws at them. And again, sometimes you can't avoid it because some things are not, your fault. The world just kind of dumps on you sometimes. But I think that when people start a business, they should, again, not just think about getting the business. They should think about how can they at least ultimately figure out a way to have 6 months, a year of reserves built up that they don't go and spend on some great vacation or some beach house because they just started their company. I think you just need to plan as though something's going to happen sooner than later, because it will.
I have continually been amazed and gratified and thrilled at the success that I have had. I've had amazing clients that I've had the opportunity to work with, and really different kinds of clients. And of course, over the years of being an entrepreneur, you also pivot and adapt to what the needs are. And so I kind of thought I might be doing one thing when I started out, and now 4.5 or 5 years or later, I do. It's really helping folks have conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, or really now underneath the big rubric of belonging.
So oftentimes when major events happen, it forces business owners that they have to start thinking more strategically. Back in 2008, a lot of business owners ignored the downturn and thought things were going to get better, and they stayed head down and doing the work, and they went out of business. The ones that survived were the ones that started thinking strategically and pivoted their business if it needed to be pivoted to take advantage of those industries that were doing well. Just the other day, I had 2 business owners call me and so excited because they had the best March ever in the history of their companies. While at other times, business owners aren't as successful, these guys are always thinking about what they can do to pivot their business to take advantage of growing opportunities in other industries. If you're not thinking of, and in times of crisis, owners need to be thinking more and more strategically and spending less and less time in the business, because the things have got to start changing, and often change very quickly. And they've got to assess what's a logical strategic move, where do we need to go, and then is it working? And if it's not, let's pivot again to find out where that sweet spot for our business is. All of that takes a lot of time. It takes tremendous communication with employees, with customers. Lots more time spent during crisis situations on the part of owners to think strategically, because things start happening really quickly. And one thing we know is change is not going to wait. And so if you're an owner that's sitting back doing the day-to-day, change is passing you right by, and you're going to have some challenges going forward.
There is one stage of the business that many do not think about. It's the exit plan. Do you plan on retiring, selling the business, training proteges? These questions are important to ask yourself now versus later. It would be a travesty to work so hard at starting and growing a business to then see it dissolve because there wasn't any attention paid to growing the business beyond your leadership. This plan isn't just for the transition of leadership. It also helps you plan for your financial future outside of the business. Let's go back to my conversation with Walter Booth about how an entrepreneur should plan for retirement.
I know a lot of people who've said, I'm gonna have to work till I die because I don't have any money saved for retirement. And so as entrepreneurs, you keep putting your money back into the business as opposed to putting your money on the side to save for your retirement. So one day you could sell the business or give it to your children or whatever you're going to do with your business. So what advice do you have for financially planning for retiring?
I want to make sure whatever my goal is, for example, if I have a goal, I want to save $1 million when I finish this business. Well, you make sure you set aside some money working towards that goal, and you don't put everything in your business. In that, if you put everything in your business and the business is not successful, well, then you lose it all.
One of the best practices that I've seen is thinking about an exit strategy. If you've been in business for a while and things are going well, what do you want to do? What's the legacy you want for that business? Do you want your employees to take it over? Do you want friends or family to take it over? Would you like to sell it? How do you want to exit the business? Now, that's not meaning that you have to start thinking about getting out of your business that you built. Everybody's business is their baby, and they don't want to get rid of their baby anytime soon, and I get that. But as you go down the road, you've been in business for a while, you want to be thinking about, where do I want to take the business next? And so having a plan around that.
Of course, I do see myself doing less work in the business, but I don't want to stop. This is not a business that I want to stop doing. It's not a business that once I say I'm hanging it up, that you really, really hang it up, because it's too easy to be doing this type of business. It's easy, but it takes know-how. And I want to I'm in the position where I'm passing things on to younger people, and we're starting programs that's going to, get people that are interested in being sound engineers, getting them ready and training them and teaching them so that, when I'm really, really ready to say I'm not doing this anymore, that, there's a branch out there that's going to be passed out to. And that's really the mode at this time in my business where I'm at. I'm passing the mode a lot, and I really do think that's important in all businesses. If you keep it all to yourself and you just wither away with it, how's the next person going to really evolve?
Let's recap. To grow your business, you have to step back from day-to-day grind and focus on strategy. Remember, less work and more focus. Also, don't allow yourself to be restricted by what's known as founder syndrome. Delegate responsibility when you can. Hire coachable staff, train them, and transfer skills and responsibilities. Be nimble enough in business to pivot when things in and outside of your control change, as we know they will. And last but not least, create an exit strategy. After a quick break, we will wrap up with lasting words from our industry experts and business owners. Welcome back to the reality of business. As the world is constantly evolving, how does a business owner keep up with all the data to make decisions? Business is evolve or die, and we've seen deaths and evolution. Cart and buggy manufacturers were driven out of business by the Ford assembly line. But what if that carpenter began reading about the potential impact of cars on their industry when only the wealthy could afford cars? So read industry publications, develop mentors and personal advisors. Invest in you because you are worth it, and your business and families it supports are worth it as well. Let's hear more about the reality of business.
If I was to give you some last words and some lasting words, it would be for every entrepreneur to make sure that they keep what they dreamed about alive. Teach the next person how you got where you are. Tell your story. Tell your story. Nobody knows your story better than you. Tell your story about how you started, what you went through, and how you got to be where you're at. And you'll be surprised how much just your story will influence and help people. And I believe that is a great way for entrepreneurs to get their, not only just get their business out, but to teach other people about what they do, how they do it.
Whoever you are, there's only your way to be. You are who you are, constantly growing, constantly learning, constantly hopefully opening your heart into this crazy world of business. It is easy to feel imposter syndrome. It is easy to feel not good enough. It is easy to want to turn tail and run. And that is the point where I say truly compassion for yourself, mindfulness, and find a friend. Seriously, find a friend in business, because the world needs all of us. The world needs us to show up and to be our best and to shine and to be strong and to have our voices heard. No matter how many other voices are out there, you have something to say and you matter.
Don't ever let someone tell you you can't do something. Don't ever let someone tell you that your dream is too big. If you're the smartest person in the room, you should find a different room. Lean on your faith, but also know that God gives you wisdom enough to read some books to help bring that into reality. And trust the plan. You know, if the truth of it is, if you can't go a day without thinking about it, you should never give up on it. And everything that we do in 7A funding, in Capital Nucleus, there are things I think about daily, that I've dreamed about for years. And so when you do those things and focus and do it right and put the right people with you, you can't help but be successful. And success is a relative term. So whatever that means to you, that might not mean money. That might not mean, clients. It might just mean that you did whatever it is that was important to you in that vision. If that happens, that's success. So don't let people paint your success with dollar bills. And don't let people tell you that what you're thinking is unrealistic. It's only unrealistic until it's been done. So, just focus on being the best you can be. And know that there's something more inside of you than just waking up every morning. You're here for a reason. Figure out what it is.
Small businesses are the backbone of America, and they represent over 50% of the workforce. And so knowing that small business owners are able to get assistance, which will only help them, they will then begin to employ people. As they employ people, that creates what is known as disposable income, hopefully for some of those people, who can then provide or request services from other small business owners. So every time a job is created, the thought is that will provide more economic power to the community, which would then empower those folks to go out and empower other folks by purchasing their products and services.
We sincerely hope you have enjoyed our show. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint at heart. To name a few attributes, it takes resilience, motivation, vision, risk tolerance, discipline, and hard work to be a successful business owner. It's important to be true to yourself and follow your passion, but it also takes strong people skills as well as adaptability. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on The Reality of Business.
Thanks for watching. Go to AIBTV.com/donate to support programming like this. Your contributions may be tax deductible.